Oh.
Genius billionaire playboy film.
Why so serious?
I wish I knew how to quit you.
You talking to me?
Life was like a box of chocolates.
You can't handle the truth.
I see dead people.
Say hello to my little friend.
Here's Johnny.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. I'll be back.
For once in your life, would it kill you to pick it up? Help me get this thing out of here.
No, we just said...
Mommy's very angry.
Hey, welcome to Picture This, everybody. I am Matt.
Kayla.
And Dan.
Hey, another week, another movie. We are continuing our Jurassic Park / Jurassic World movie marathon as we continue to count down to not only the season finale of Picture This, dun, 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 but Jurassic World Dominion. Dun, dun, dun. Where we are talking about today, the Lost World Jurassic Park. After talking about Jurassic Park last week, we were talking about its sequel, the first sequel from 1997. We mentioned this in the last video, and I think even the video before that. We are pre-recording these, so we're not going to get into news or anything that we normally do because we are taking a break. So we're kind of just going to jump right in and talk about the movies these next couple weeks. So with that said, we're going to talk about The Lost World. Dan is our stats guy. Dan, tell us about The Lost World Jurassic Park.
So as already mentioned, Mr. Matt, we're celebrating, by the time this airs, 25th anniversary, as this was released on May 25th, 1997. Pretty big opening weekend, $72 million.
May 25th or May 19th?
I'm sorry, May 25th.
Oh, okay. So it's not to the, I thought we were to the day.
Little off,
Okay.
I guess. But anyways, the opening weekend, $72 million. The whole budget for this was $73 million. So basically made its budget back on its opening weekend.
Wow.
Pretty freaking awesome. So gross in US and Canada, $229 million, gross worldwide over $618 million. So this was a huge release, a huge blockbuster for sure. And as I recall, one fact on this before we get too much into the stats, Steven Spielberg, after his back-to-back like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List, they were huge movies when they were released. He took a break from directing until he came back to chair this movie here. So a little interesting fact. And again, Steven Spielberg returned to direct this movie. And this was the last one that he had for the Jurassic Park franchise. And we'll get into some interesting facts about that when we go. But as far as the overall ratings for this, sorry, guys. We had a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, 3 out of 5 on Common Sense, 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb. Overall, this was rated a 4.1 out of 5 stars on Google audience reviews. And to get a little bit into what we're watching here, we have Jeff Goldblum returning to be Ian Malcolm, who is a protagonist in this. And we are visiting not Isla Nublar, which we saw in Jurassic Park, but Isla Sorna, which is known in this movie affectionately as Site B. Basically, we're visiting an area where the dinosaurs were hatched. There was a big hurricane that came through, pretty much scrapped all the equipment and the items that were left on the island. So the animals were released and they thrived, even without the lysine, which we know from the first movie was supposed to be a contingency plan for the dinosaurs to wipe out if not given to them. They actually did have that in the plants. They flourished, and really excited to talk about this movie with you guys. So we'll go ahead and kick it off. Back to our host, Mr. Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. So I'm just going to jump right in. I don't have any notes for reasons that we shall not discuss on the air. But as mentioned last week, I went into this movie phone away, totally focused in. I wanted to get back into this world. And out of all the Jurassic sequels thus far, this one is my favorite. Do I think it's necessarily the best sequel? No. We'll talk about that in a couple weeks. But as far as my favorite, if I'm wanting to watch Jurassic Park, or if I'm wanting to get into that Jeff Goldblum mood, I'll turn this on. Which brings me to Jeff Goldblum. He was my favorite character in the original. He is my favorite character in this. He's my favorite character in the Jurassic Park series. In this movie, they change him up a bit. He goes from being very geeky and nerdy in the original, quirky even, to in this, they made him like a badass, which, given the day, I can take or leave. As a kid, I loved him because I was like, oh, Jeff Goldblum, he's my favorite. And now he's like cool. He ditched the glasses. He ditched like I don't want to say gothic, but like he ditched the all black look and went with like a maroon purple, but still like style, like slick hair. And he was like the main guy. He was what Sam Neill was to the original, except arguably Sam Neill did it better in the original. This movie is one I remember when it came out, no one was expecting a Jurassic Park sequel, at least not me as a child. Jurassic Park was this massive movie. And I remember when it came out, everyone was like, oh my God, they're making a second one? Like, how is this possible? No one would go back to that island. Joke's on us, there's a second island. And the tagline in the trailers and the commercials on TV showed like a forest, and like you heard something running through it, and then it said something has survived, and depending on which version you watched, the T-Rex would pop through, and that would be like the teaser, right? And that was like something has survived. It was all over like yogurts, go-gurts, whatever they were at the time. It was all over the action figure, the toys, which of course, as we talked about last week, Dan and myself collected. I still have a couple of them up in my attic. So this movie means a lot to me. I'm affectionate towards this movie. Going back and rewatching it for this week's show, there were some notes that I had written, but I unfortunately don't have. So going off of memory, I remember one big thing that a lot of 90s movies, a lot of 90s sequels did was change the theme music. The Jurassic Park theme by John Williams is iconic, and John Williams does the music here. This is actually the last, not only is this the last Spielberg directed Jurassic Park film, this is the last John Williams composing Jurassic Park film. Now they use his theme again in the sequels, but they have different composers just kind of borrowing his theme. So he did like a whole new score for this. You only get little minor hints of the original theme, which I remember as a child, and even now as an adult, I was like, why didn't they just go with what worked? But you know, because it's I've seen it so many times, and because I've grown up with it, the music in this film has grown on me. It's one that even as I was watching, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. I was watching, was it Fallen Kingdom or was it Jurassic World? One of the two newer ones. There was hints in it that I heard. I was like, that almost sounds like the Lost World music. So it's one that I can kind of pick out and that I kind of do enjoy these days. Whereas Jurassic Park, I use the word magical to describe it. It was very magical. It was very believable. It had me engrossed in everything that it was doing. This film, my word for this film is gritty. It's a lot darker. It's grittier, obviously. It's more violent. It's an adult film. It's not geared for the family like future sequels would be. This was a sequel to the original, which was also an adult film. But this one took that and made it to the next level. Like, okay, this is your parents' Jurassic Park, kids. And I think it does it well. I remember as a kid, I wanted to go see it in theaters, and my parents wouldn't let me. I eventually did watch it when it came out on VHS tape. I got it for my birthday one year, but I wasn't allowed to see it because everyone was telling my mom had not even seen it, right? But everyone was telling my mom, and I believe even Dan's mom was telling my mom, hey, this movie's a lot more violent than the first movie. So she wouldn't let me watch it, at least in the movie theater. Again, months later, I finally did get to see it. Overall, just to quit from rambling, I enjoy this movie. It does for me what I want a Jurassic movie to do. It entertains me. There's some cheesy parts, especially toward the end. Malcolm's daughter literally gymnastics and kicks a dinosaur, a velociraptor of all things, in the face, which we don't need to go into, but it has its pluses and minuses. I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It could be better, could be worse. We'll talk about ways that this series takes better and worse in the coming weeks. This is right in the middle there for me, 7.5. Like I said, is my favorite of the sequels.
Do you want to go last? Is that why you're looking at
Sure,
me?
go ahead.
Okay. All right. I got to think about let's see. Okay. So I'm going to start with what I didn't like about this movie. So my biggest thing with this movie was Ian Malcolm. So obviously he's my favorite character from the first movie. He's, like Matt said, this quirky, eccentric, kind of chaos kind of guy who's smacked in the middle of this, adventure, and you kind of watch it unfold with all these different characters. So it's perfect because you see each different one react to these situations in a certain type of way. And I just loved what he brought to the table in the first film. And I love the quirky characters. I really do. So going to this, I was really hopeful because, of course, I'd watched this a long time ago, but I had no recollection of anything that happened. So Dan was like, oh, you really like Ian Malcolm. You'll really like the second one. It's all Ian Malcolm. So I was hyped up to watch this. I was like, yeah, Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, Ian Malcolm. Like, this is awesome. So you get into it and you're first thrown into this kind of like Ian Malcolm, and he's being a little bit macho. And you're like, okay, it's the beginning of the movie. Like, he's got a daughter and you're like, okay, that's like weird, but okay, whatever. And then it's like this whole thing where it's like, oh, his girlfriend is on this island. And like, first of all, I'm like, okay, we don't need to know about his girlfriend, okay? I don't need to be thinking about that while I'm watching Ian Malcolm. And then he's like, well, now I gotta go because my girlfriend's there. And I'm like, would Ian Malcolm really do that? Would he really react that way? So yeah, they're trying to bring this like macho, they're trying to revamp this character, leave behind the glasses. Maybe he was wearing contacts. I really don't know. How did he see? I don't know. But yeah, that was something that really stuck with me. How did he see? Did they think contact lenses were cooler? Was that the cooler thing?
Maybe.
So that kind of like really bugged me that they left the glasses behind, because like when you picture him, I mean, do we have that pop? We don't have that pop, do we? Like when you picture him, you think of Ian Malcolm laying down with the glasses on, shirt half open. And I'm like, okay, but I know I'm going on about this whole macho thing, but that really killed it for me. Like they took this character who was brilliant, which was a great character. He was written brilliantly. Oh my God, I can't speak. And Jeff Goldblum, of course, portrayed it perfectly. I mean, nobody else could have played this character but Jeff Goldblum. And then you take him and you try to buff him up, try to appeal more to the audience. I don't know if it was like they were trying to appeal more to the female audience or like, okay. Anyway, so let me try to get back on track. And in this film too, it is grittier. It's a lot more like, it's the whole thing of it is like darker. The whole film is darker. Like like you're looking at a whole darker theme. It's not this bright during the day. Laura Dern is running, like run from the raptors. You just literally got them just chilling in the dark with huge dinosaurs. So that's a whole thing. I didn't really care for the whole like dinosaurs being shoved down your throat like 95% of the time. There was no break in between any of that. And it's like kind of exhausting to try to keep up with that pace, because you need a little bit chill down if you're like literally putting yourself in that mental state where it's like, dude, I'm being chased by a dinosaur 24/7. Like, no, you would die. So that's my whole take with that. I still did like that Jeff Goldblum was in it, Ian Malcolm. I mean, that was still a cool thing to have his own standalone film, because I wouldn't have, if I was a child and I would have like been thinking about this, I wouldn't have expected that. Like, you know, who you would have thought they would have still went with Sam Neill and Laura Dern on the next standalone movie or what have you. But I'm glad they went in that direction. Looking back after seeing all of the films now, except for Dominion, of course, you know, and watching other films, which we will talk about, you get an appreciation of the different things that they do in this film. And, you know, it changes my viewpoint a little bit. I do like some of the things they did. I do like that they had, because this whole theme of focusing on the raptors, I really enjoyed that. I think that's a perfect dinosaur to throw in there, because one, they're still like kind of human sized, but, and then they're scary. So there were cheesy parts. The whole raptor scene with Jeff Goldblum, his daughter, and Julianne Moore was really over the top and cheesy. Ian Malcolm wouldn't be able to like juke out a freaking raptor. That would never happen. So I was like, oh, with that, I'm trying to think of other things. I don't know. But like I said, I want to go back to, I have a new appreciation for this. Rethink, like this is the same with Batman. You go back and you watch a film when you're first thrown into it, and you're watching, you're kind of like, you think like, what don't I like about it? But then you go back and you let it simmer a little bit, and then you're able to compare it to the different films. So like I said, there's a new appreciation for that. I actually don't want to like talk too bad about it, because it really wasn't that awful compared to other Jurassic Park things I've seen. So this is actually going to get a 6.5 out of me. I wanted to rate it a 6 before, but 6.5 feels more appropriate considering number 3. But this, I mean, 3 is just terrible.
We'll talk about that later.
But yes, which we will talk about later. But this definitely, as a standalone film, a follow-up, it didn't have that same impact, but it still was generally not a bad film. Not a bad Jurassic film. If you're coming to see the dinosaurs, then you got it. If you were coming to see Ian Malcolm, then you definitely got it. If you were coming to see like, oh my God, they're about to be crushed inside of a thing that's going off the side of a cliff, and these monster or dinosaurs are just so smart, you're like, how the frick would they know that? Then you got it. So, you know, in Jurassic sense, it's kind of like a good Jurassic movie. So I feel like I rated it pretty much kind of like what along some of the critics would say. So 6.5 for me.
Alright guys, so not to rehash everything else that we've been over, as far as Jeff Goldblum is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get interrupted because I'm just thinking about something. So I'm so sorry. And 2, okay, this might be like, oh, like I'm getting it to him. But anyway, some of, like, compared to the first film, some of the dialogue in this movie was a little bit cheesy too. And I feel like it was a little lazy, and I don't know if they were just trying to be like riding on the tails of what number 1 was. But I feel like they could have done a better job with writing too, especially Jeff Goldblum, because like he does perfect one-liners. And some of these one-liners in here were like, you know, would not be something Ian Malcolm would say. Sorry, that's all my piece. I said my piece.
All right, not to rehash everything that's already been said about Jeff Goldblum, but again, I think that it was a good choice for a main character in the second film, especially considering that after he helps Ellie get to the in the power station to turn the power back on, that was the last time we hear him talk in that entire movie. So we definitely put him front and center of the camera. Really didn't think about that at the time, but glad to see him back. I felt Julianne Moore was a welcome addition to this. I think she did a pretty good job, though her character, Dr. Sarah Harding, I will say, didn't make a lot of sense, because A lot of the things that she's telling them not to do or to be careful about, she just turns around, does, like, don't interact with it, but yet we're going to go over and we're going to pet like the Stegosaurus, wherever the dinosaur was, and nearly get killed, and make sure that you clean up after yourself because you don't want to get tracked. The T-Rex has like excellent sense of smell. And then we go back and we have blood on her shirt from the T-Rex, and guess what? Mom and Daddy T-Rex done followed you and figured out where you are. I mean, take or leave her character. As far as the whole premise of this movie, kind of felt divided to me. You had two sets of people that were sent. You had Jeff Goldblum, I'll say Jeff Goldblum's team, with Vince Vaughn, who was picked up for this after Steven Spielberg saw The Swingers, which I believe came out in '95, not sure. So he was added to the cast because of his performance there. And then again, Julianne Moore, a couple others that were involved. And then InGen, which came in full force, was taken over by the nephew of Richard Attenborough's character, John Hammond, who we again saw in this movie briefly, which I was happy to see them. And then we also see Tim and Lex for a couple minutes, so their part wasn't huge. So good to get some old faces in. Then we have Vanessa Lee Chester, who plays the daughter of Ian Malcolm, who is inside the camper when they get across, which I always thought was weird how you went on a boat or however they transported that thing and then not realize that there's somebody inside the camper. Like, did nobody drive the camper? Like, how did they get it on the boat to begin with without her knowing? I'm sure she's stowed away and there's probably more information somewhere, but interesting. You know, there's some big scenes, some key takeaways here. Kayla mentioned one of them, the T-Rexes, mom and dad T-Rex come to find their little baby who has a broken leg. They go in, and they're beating the crap out of the trailer. You have the whole scene where they're near about pushing the trailer off the cliff. I thought that was really well done, and surprise, surprise, one of the favorite things that our director, Mr. Steven Spielberg, likes to do is put animatronics in these. So there's two huge animatronics, so big that they had to build the set around these guys. I thought that was kind of interesting. In fact, one of my other favorite scenes later in the movie, when all heck breaks loose after Vince Vaughn's letting all the dinosaurs out and Julianne Moore's letting dinosaurs out the InGen camp. Later on, we see everybody walking through a field, right? And then that's where the velociraptors are. And it gets your heart going. And then the next thing you know, like, these guys are getting taken out left and right. They're screaming, they're crying. And then Ian Malcolm, Sarah Harding, Nick Van Owen, and the daughter go in a separate direction from the rest of the guys getting slaughtered. What a novel idea, go away from the sound of screaming. But ultimately, they end up face to face with the raptors as well. I thought it was kind of interesting how they filmed that scene. Apparently, they had bought out a plot that was 8 acres long, and they started growing the grass a year in advance. They wanted to get 8 acres because if they needed to do a reshoot, the grass, when they walked through it, would push down. And that's one of the things I thought was so iconic about this, is not only do you see the guys when they're walking through, but you see the raptors carving their path through, and it almost gave me like a Jaws kind of feel, which maybe that was intentional, maybe not, but it was kind of cool. You get to see the predator sneaking up on the prey, right? Overall, I did miss Sam Neill, did actually miss Laura Dern, but I don't feel that they were necessary in this movie. I just don't think it was their time. I don't know if number 3 was really the time for it either, but looking forward to see them back in Jurassic World Dominion. Overall, again, I think my favorite character, though, out of this, even more so than Ian Malcolm, was Roland Tembo, played by Pete Postlethwaite. Sorry if I didn't pronounce that correctly, but we see his character go in. He's kind of dictating to John Hammond's nephew, like, hey, these are the conditions that I'm here. I'm going to bag a T-Rex. I don't really care what you like about it, don't like about it, but that's what I'm going to do. And towards the end, we get to see his character tranquilize a T-Rex. He didn't get to shoot one or hunt one. Ultimately, this is what saves the InGen operation, is they got a dinosaur. They get the baby dinosaur or the baby T-Rex. And his head's down. His partner or companion has been killed by the velociraptors. And they walk up to him. They're like, hey, you got your trophy. You got this T-Rex. We can make you whatever at the new park that we're going to have in San Diego. You should be happy. And then he declines and says that I think that I've been around the company of death or too much or too long. And I thought that was just crazy how he went from one extreme to the other, and we really see how the park changes the characters, and kind of like how we felt in the first film. Kayla hit on this a little bit about how you would never think they'd go back, like what it would take. Apparently what it takes is either being, your girlfriend going out there and having to play the knight in shining armor, which I don't know if she necessarily needed, or the number 3 get knocked out and kidnapped, but that's for a later time. But overall, again, the ending of this, we see for the first time a dinosaur reach the mainland, but not the last time in the series. We do have the Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is in the backyard of somebody. I really still remember just that, the doghouse hanging from the end of the chain. They ate Rex or whatever the poor dog's name was. How crazy that would be to be a child in the middle of the night and then running into your parents, and I'm sure they're like, yeah, you're just full, whatever. You probably watch too much TV, whatever. And I think the parents do get into it a little bit, right? They go in and lo and behold, there's a T-Rex in their backyard. So wow, shocker.
Eyeball and everything.
Yeah, man. But they get him back in, ultimately are big bad in the form of John Hammond's nephew. I'm trying to find his name. Of course, I can't right now. But he ends up getting eaten by the T-Rex because in the end, he's an egomaniac. He's wanting to take over the dream of his predecessor, John Hammond, open the park that's already been started. Really kind of a throwback to what Ian Malcolm says in the first movie, in my opinion, that he didn't have to work for it, right? He just wanted to, take it, slap it on a lunchbox, patent it, and sell it, right? And that's kind of exactly what this main big bad did. In the end, it didn't work out for him either. So sorry about your luck, man. But overall, that's what I'd have to say about this movie. I'm right there with Matt. I don't think it's a terrible movie. You see a lot more. I'll take this back. When you watch number 1, you don't see a lot of dinosaurs, right? But I feel that the technology that was available in 1997 gave them more realm to do some more interesting things. And they were able to bring, like Kayla said, an actual full dinosaur movie. Whereas I think it's like 15 or 20 minutes of dinosaur action in the first film. This one, you're getting like 80% more than you did on the first film. So I thought they did a good job there. They gave people really what they wanted. And I'm sure that after the first one, which was more tame, this one kept your heart pounding the entire time. There's nothing but people getting, deaded, for lack of a better word. But overall, 7.5 out of 10 for me. Will always be, iconic, close to the heart, and really a good experience to look back on. So,
I actually have a couple of things to add if nobody else wants to talk, if that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, sorry guys, you're gonna hear me talk and ramble on again, because I was thinking about more things and I need to take notes because I'm like, yeah. Okay, so first, I feel like picking Julianne Moore as a love interest was a weak choice. I really wasn't convinced by their chemistry at all. And you get these brief little moments of like, are they actually really a couple, or are they just like know each other and that's what it is? Because like, what? I think a better choice for that would have been like Gina Davis. That would have been awesome to see. I know they had their little history, but I would have been convinced, and I would have been like, yeah, because she definitely fits the role more of like, I could see her more being like the scientist lady. Like Julianne Moore just felt weird. I don't know if they were just trying to throw in like a young actress that was like pretty, I don't know.
Well, the other thing too is I think that Julianne Moore's occupation was changed for this movie. What did they say that she was? She
was a paleontologist or
paleontologist, where actually she was supposed to be like an animal behaviorist, which if I was looking at that, and I'm sorry to disagree with you, but I feel like Julianne Moore probably could pull that off better than Gina Davis. Like if I was going for a paleontologist, I would go the other way, but people are going to disagree with me. And if you do, that's fine. Shoot in the comments. I'm about to get slashed here too.
I just feel like it's like more of a chemistry thing. I mean, there was like no buildup of anything. Like he's just like, oh, my baby is over here. Like, let me go.
I agree. Like, Julianne Moore had more chemistry, I thought, with Vince Vaughn than she did with Jeff Goldblum, and she's supposed to be Jeff Goldblum's lover.
Now, is that her fault though, or is that more so how the film was written?
Well, I think it's both. I think there's not a lot of chemistry there between the two characters, and it's written in a way that they don't have a lot of screen time together. So you don't really see them as a couple a whole lot. Glimpses here and there. Your Gina Davis idea, now I want to see that movie. Give me that movie.
Right. So my next thing too, kind of moving along with the whole Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn was a wonderful addition to this. So I feel like he was like actually like one of like the stars of this. I love the idea of his character, that he was, you know, a photographer, wildlife photographer, what have you. And I feel like they could have really brought him in on another movie. I would have loved to have seen his character return. And he was like low-key the kind of guy that kind of saved the day a little bit. So that was really nice. I was surprised to see his character really be as good as he was. And another thing too, touching on what Dan said, my favorite scene of that movie was the raptors plucking off the people one by one. And what's so great about that is they go like to bird's eye view. And if I could just have a clip that would just like summarize this whole movie, that's what it would be, because that's how perfect that was done. It was so well done, and you get that creepiness of the raptors, which I love because they're so creepy. You hate them. You're like, oh, scared, but they're so cool. There was one more thing that I wanted to say. Oh my god. Oh yes. Okay. So like I totally forgot when I was talking about this review, the like fourth part of this movie, which when they leave the boat. And to me, that becomes like a totally different thing. Like, I don't even know if that should be part of this movie. It's so off the wall that it's like, it kind of like it, which is like why my rating was so low, and why like I just like can't love this movie.
See, this is the thing, and you don't know at the time like how everything is pretty much influenced by a director, and it really is. So Steven Spielberg, a couple things. So he picked Vince Vaughn. He also picked a little girl that played Ian Malcolm's daughter because he saw her in a play or a musical or something and said that I'm going to put you in one of my movies, and he did. But he also made the decision he was going to put the whole thing with the dinosaur getting out of the boat in his third film. So he was planning originally to do 3 Jurassic Park movies, which would have been different for him because the only sequel that he had done up to that point was with sequels would be for the Indiana Jones franchise. To my knowledge, has he done any more? I can't think of any off the top of my head. So, but he was planning on a third, and by the time he was done with this, supposedly he was ready to get away, and he said, you know, I'm just going to throw all the stops at it. I'm going to leave a mark, and then he added that too. So to your point, I think this could have been the start of a different movie, but if it had been, I don't know what we would have ended up with, because I can't imagine it would be anywhere close to what we ended up with number 3. Maybe that would have been a better thing.
Well, see, and I think putting that into a third movie probably would have been better. And because in the third one, you know, which we'll talk about before, it kind of goes in, or we'll talk about later, goes in a totally different direction. And it's not even cohesive to what these two films show you. And really like, it's a separate thing in itself. It's more like a movie you would see on TV than a movie you would see in the movie theater. But anyway, I just didn't like that the final act in which they did. I felt like it was too rushed. You got this big dinosaur that comes to the US. Where is it? In California? Where is it? Florida? Where the heck is it?
Sacramento.
But they were on Costa Rica?
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, it comes into this Bay Area somehow. You know, you see hands with walkies, hands on the steering wheel. But then again, I mean, I just can't imagine that the big dinosaur that was subdued, what have you, would have ate these. So there's just like, there's a lapse in that.
I think that's a good point, because a Tyrannosaurus Rex, had he been able to get into the cab to where the captain was and his hands on the ship steering wheel, whatever, he would have tore that cabin up.
Right.
He wouldn't have fit. So yeah, something happened between A to B, And it's something that could have also opened up again for start of a third movie. Like, hey, we addressed this, but we never talked about how the crew died and the fact that there's now raptors running around in on mainland, which I think is something that Jurassic World is going to rectify, because now dinosaurs are out on the mainland. And I feel, and again, I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but the movies, the newer movies, feel directly like spiritual successors to the originals, in one way or the other. Like Jurassic World, you get a ton of Jurassic Park, and it was done respectfully. Fallen Kingdom, I feel, really takes a lot from, and we'll talk about this in a later episode, but from the Lost World. And then of course we get number 3, and hopefully some things change, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Watching number 2 and then just a few days later watching Fallen Kingdom, you see the similarities like crazy. And like in the beginning, it's almost scene by scene, like the steps they take it with Claire's character, Owen's character, the love interest doing these crazy things, and then dragging in that main character or the other character, what have you. So yeah. But like I said in my thing, looking back and having watched all of these, majority of these films, you know, there's appreciation to every single one of them, whether they're good or not, because they're part of that franchise. But this one, I think, has some really good aspects to it and brought things to the whole franchise in itself. Whereas 3 really didn't do that at all. I'm not really sure. When we'll get into that. I'm not really sure why they went where they went, but they did.
We'll pull more into that in a later episode.
Yes, we will. But overall, this was not a bad follow-up, wasn't perfect by any means, but it accomplished what it set out to accomplish. And you can't be mad at that because they brought in a crap ton of money. So good for them.
How much did you say when it was all said and done, globally or worldwide or whatever you said?
I think.
Yeah, $600 and some million worldwide.
Phew.
I mean, you're making like just shy of
550 million.
Like what, 9 times your budget. So good for you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, any last words on the Lost World?
I think I'm not sure if we brought this up, but I know as a group we talked about this, that you can definitely see after the fact that Steven Spielberg didn't direct any further than this, and his influence really, you can tell that what it's lacking in the next one or going forward.
But we are happy that Steven Spielberg did step back in as executive producer, because I'm sure that he did pull a lot of notes in, especially for Jurassic World.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, he changed the shape of dinosaur movies. These 2 movies in particular changed the shape and the future for dinosaur movies as we know it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Are there any other dinosaur movies other than Jurassic Park?
Land Before Time.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure, like, what is it? Velocipaster, where the pastor turns into a raptor. Apparently, I don't know. I've only seen it on Netflix. Apparently, it's a really weird movie.
Surprised there isn't like a Jurassic NATO or something.
The Good Dinosaur.
The Good Dinosaur. Oh, true.
I don't know if there's like any live action.
Nothing really like this. But then again,
live action?
You have a gold standard here. So what are you going to do that would make your movie different or to stand out today?
How would you tell a live action story where there's dinosaurs and people and not have it be a ripoff of Jurassic Park?
True. Wasn't there a TV show called like Dinosaurs?
There was a TV show called The Lost World in the 90s. There was a TV show called The Lost World. It was no affiliation with this, but it was on TNT, and it was about people and dinosaurs, and they were like had guns and all kinds of stuff.
Was it like a mini series?
I think it was like a show. It could have been a mini series.
The whole thing was, I believe there was a like Michael Crichton was trying to change the name like before this got released. I think originally it might have just been The Lost World, if I remember correctly, and then he changed it to, was it Lost World Jurassic Park, like, or he wanted some other variation because he didn't want the 2 to be confused.
Yeah, so it looks like in 1999 through 2002, it went 3 seasons. There was a show called The Lost World on TNT. I don't recognize any of the names in it, but I remember seeing it on TV because it used to come on before Lois and Clark, the Superman show that I used to watch. So I would catch the tail end of The Lost World and then go into Lois and Clark.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
IMDb rates it 7.1 out of 10. Wow. But yeah,
Interesting.
the more you know.
Yeah, for real.
So there it is, everybody. The Lost World Jurassic Park, arguably one of the better sequels of the franchise. As Kayla said, it is still Steven Spielberg's world, and you can tell it feels like, even though it's darker and grittier and way more death, you can tell it has the same underlining tone and set in the same universe as the first movie. And that's what I enjoy so much about it. It feels like a continuation, other than Malcolm being different. But maybe, hey, it was the 90s. Maybe he just was like, you know, I'm gonna
Get a glow up, but it was a glow down.
But you said something that actually kind of made sense. You said maybe it was to attract female viewers, and maybe it was. I mean, maybe they realized, hey, Jeff Goldblum is our star, and while Jeff Goldblum's not a bad-looking guy, maybe like, well, maybe let's ditch the glasses and the curly hair, and like let's try to make him kind of like a sex icon or something.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think whoever marketed that really did their things on demographics and were like, what appeals to what?
Because you'll notice in future movies, up until and including the new movie, he's kind of gone backwards and gone back to that original character that he was in Fallen Kingdom. He's very scruffy and has the glasses returned, and it looks like, from what I can tell in the new movie, I think the glasses are there. I'd have to double check the trailer, but he seems more original Malcolm than Lost World Malcolm.
Which cheers to that, because I'm looking forward to that.
One last random thing, and this wasn't anything that we read, but this was something that Kayla and I saw during this viewing experience. Matt, Kayla, and I have met Jeff Goldblum in person. Very awesome experience. I thought he was really funny. He made some weird sounds when we were there. He held Kayla's hand. It was pretty cool. But outside of that, he is extremely tall, extremely tall guy. And we're watching a scene where they're working on the RV or whatever. And he is standing towards the back of the room, and there's another gentleman behind him.
Next to him,
behind him somewhere. And he is taller than Jeff Goldblum by a lot.
yes, like by like a head.
So if anybody knows who that extra is, I want some information.
Yes.
Because it was pretty cool, and it just kind of, it was where Kayla pointed it out, and I was like, man, that guy must be like 7 foot something.
Yeah, for real.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah.
So just something fun.
Anyway, yeah.
I mean, granted, he had a hat on, but I mean, he was towering over at least me. Like a good couple inches, on another foot, or at least.
Yeah, he's what, like 6'5", 6'4", something like
Yeah.
that.
Why don't we tell the viewers, and by the way, if you stuck out this long, thank you so much for watching our videos. We know
It's not Jeff Malcolm.
it is Jeff Malcolm.
He just looked up Jeff.
I'm sure it would come up if you put that in Google. I'm sure it would come up. Jeff
He's
Malcolm.
6'4".
6'4". That's pretty tall. Especially, I'm 5'10". I knew he was like, I was looking up at him. Like,
I'm 5 foot.
Kayla looks up
It's
at
a full
everybody.
14 inches.
yeah, it was a
Anyway.
lot.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. So there it is. Guys, thank you for continuing to watch. Thank you for the views on the first episode of the Jurassic series.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They're continuing to climb. It's so awesome. We thank you. We love you. As always, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. We are wrapping up the season, but if you want us to review something next season, leave us a comment. We'll be sure to get to it as quickly as possible. Dan, where can they find us?
Guys, if you're looking for us, which, man, if you are, what is wrong with you? No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. We're on Instagram at Picture This Film Reviews, and also on Facebook at Picture This Film Reviews. And then, Mr. Matt, what is our YouTube channel?
it is, of course, youtube.com/Studio29Films.
You guys, how long was this movie?
Oh gosh, we didn't
Oh, yeah, we
discuss
forgot.
the
We
matometer.
talked about this before we filmed.
We didn't discuss the matometer.
So as of today, which is before Dominion has come out, if you guys are watching this after Dominion, which is awesome if you are, but this movie was the longest in the Jurassic franchise thus far at 2 hours and 9 minutes. So we were discussing on the bathroom meter where this would be. This is one of the movies that, you know, you can probably make it through the whole thing, but had you drank, sorry, a lot of Coke, Pepsi, whatever, you are probably really holding it in towards the time that you get out, and then you're running straight to the restroom when you get out of the theater before you leave, because you're not making out of that parking lot without something happening, hitting a pothole or something. So.
Yeah.
And just for the record, guys, I don't have that bad of a bladder. In fact, I never take bathroom breaks during a movie. So I'm not sure why this has become a thing, but I enjoy that it has. And mild spoilers, as Dan and I were talking off camera before we recorded this, the new Jurassic World Dominion, that's going to set the record. 2 hours and 26 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
That might be that might push the matometer a little bit more.
Yeah. We might need some disposable underwear. Just kidding.
Some empty cups next to us or something.
Yeah, I'm not gonna sit next to her. You know, I don't know what's gonna happen.
All right, guys. So everyone have a great week.
Yes.
Tune in next week. We're talking about Jurassic Park 3. We're continuing this all the way until Dominion, and then we're going to spoil the F out of Dominion. So keep tuning in. Have a great week. Watch Jurassic Park 3. It is streaming on HBO Max. And of course, love one another.
Bye.
See you guys.